A Zimbabwean-born entrepreneur, Joseph Busha, is calling on all citizens in Africa to unite for peace and unity. He is hosting a 54th National Peace Pledge Marathon. People all over the continent will also race at the same time to celebrate Africa Month this May. Joseph Busha joins us now in our studios to tell us more about his initiative. Good morning to you and thank you so much for coming through.
Good morning to you and the viewers.
Now, the topic of peace and unity, it is something that is very close to your heart, of course. Talk to us about where do you come from, with this peace and unity. You were born in Zimbabwe, but you've been staying here in South Africa for over 20 years. But your observations throughout the African continent?
Well, the observations really is that Africa hasn't reached its full potential. We have had lots of narratives like Africa Rising and so on, but we haven't really seen the full benefits of the riches and our diversity as Africans. So the question is, what is hindering development, both social and economic? Why do we have so much poverty and famine in Africa? And I believe that, the wars, mismanagement of the natural resources on the continent have just exacerbated our social problems as a nation and as a people.
Now, you were quoted on one of the articles as saying that you are not necessarily someone who wants to rule, but you want to serve Zimbabwe. What is your take on the current socio-economic state of Zimbabwe as it is now?
Well, it has been stagnant for the past 20 years. Really the issue in Zimbabwe and across the continent, as I mentioned earlier on, is leadership and taking responsibility by our leaders. If I were to quote Chinua Achebe, one of the greatest writers, and he was referring to Nigeria at this stage, but that war can be referred to Africa. He said the problem of Nigeria is leadership, taking responsibility and being personal examples, which are the hallmarks of leadership. So we're looking for exemplary leadership. And if you look at it, since Kwame Nkrumah and the Mandelas, no one in Africa has come up with a stand that calls for call to action to say, as a people, let's rally behind one thing. So they rallied behind, freedom from colonialism and so on. And our generation, to be able to benefit economically, I believe that we have to establish peace first, and peace must be the foundation for both social and economic development. All
right, that is why you're calling on Africans to make a pledge.
Yes.
But what exactly will they be committing to here?
Well, they're committing to say they are peace. Peace resides in us and it has to come from us. So what we want them to do is to pledge to say, I'm for peace and I'm peace. And they will not make or support any decisions that will cause social unrest, poverty, and all some of the, man-made disasters we've seen in Africa. So, for example, you were just reading in your headlines, some of the 82 out of the 270 girls from Nigeria are being released. But when those girls were captured, the world made noise for 3 months and everything disappeared. And this is really 3 years down the line. So we want to say, how do we engage the citizens? How do we engage Africans to take responsibility for their future rather than for us to leave it at the whims of politicians and business leaders?
All right. You're also calling for students to become ambassadors of this movement. Talk to us about that. Well,
students are the future, as you know. So what we're saying to the students, if you're going to be the future leaders, you have to start taking responsibility now. But what we have simply as a message to the students is that we're saying, hold a pen and a book, read, write, gain knowledge, and you will be able to be free to dream, to work, and to prosper. And take that real call to say, as a new generation, our generation is to establish peace. From peace, we'll be able to develop, as a nation. You cannot be innovative if you are not at peace. And peace is not the absence of war. Peace really can be emotional. So we want people to say, well, listen, I'm at peace myself. And only when you're at peace yourself, it radiates to others and you'll be able to realize your full potential.
But do our leaders have peace in themselves?
No, there isn't. There is no peace within. And that's the reason why we're saying this, so that the leaders themselves will be able to first find peace within themselves and be able to understand their responsibility for the greater society. And if you look at it really, what we all desire, we desire peace. peace, and that's elusive. I've always said, you know, when people die, we always say, may your soul rest in peace, which means we only find peace in our death, but we want to be able to be at peace whilst we live.
Well, quite an interesting one. Now, let's talk about the race. It will take place on the 28th of May, but I was also reading that there is distance for everyone to actually take part. You've got your 5-kilometer race, your 21-kilometer. Talk to us about the details of the race.
Well, the race really, this is Africa Day. Remember 25 May 1963, the Organization of African Unity, the OAU, now the AU, was formed to foster peace and unity in Africa, and we want to be able to fulfill that.
Has it been able to foster that peace?
It hasn't, okay? And that's the reason why we say it was driven from the top, from political leadership. We want it to be driven by the citizens themselves. So we're saying each African country of the 54, 25 May, let's get together in a national stadium in our diversity, celebrate through arts, culture and music and athletics and obviously the races, and walk together, run together, you know, to be able to pledge peace at the end of the day.
All right. We spoke to an analyst earlier on the show who was basically saying that OAU just changed its name. Nothing has changed. The mandate is still the same and it hasn't actually delivered. So you are sharing the same sentiments with what he said.
No, certainly there hasn't been any delivery of whatsoever. That's the reason why they're trying to change the name to AU to copy the EU, but the EU has been disintegrating. So our view is that the new leadership must be able to take and make sure that we see it as a living reality.
Right. Is there perhaps a website for those who would want to pledge and partake at the race? At
the race, which is 28 May, Rand Stadium, our partners is the city of Joburg. We have also Channel Africa, Central Gauteng Athletics and Colossus Athletics Club. The website is www.jmbusha54.com, but you can also enter at the start of the race.
All right. Thank you so much. We'll leave it at that, and all the best for the day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Joseph Busha is a Zimbabwean-born businessman living now in South Africa, talking to us about the Peace and Unity race that will take place on the 28th of May, when we celebrate Africa Day at Rand Stadium. So do go to their website, www.jmbusha54.com, for the latest, even if you want to go as far as pledging your support for this initiative. We're taking a break here on Morning Live. We'll be back right after this.